We were just talking LinkedIn with Josh Isner, the president of Axon, correct?
I'm the
You
president of Axon. Yes, Howard, your audio is coming through just okay. Is that on my
is
end or
that?
your end?
I don't know. Is that better, guys? Can you hear me now?
Yep.
All right, buddy. So we're both in Scottsdale. What's the weather up by you? It's 80 degrees here in South Scottsdale.
So actually, Howard, today I'm in San Francisco. We one of our partners kicked off their year down the street here, a company called Skydio, who I'm a huge, huge fan of, a U.S. made drone company that's our that we have a channel partnership with, and so. They really did me dirty. I had to. They had Magic Johnson come in as the opening keynote, and then they put me up right
Oh,
after him, and so they just set up for complete failure. But it was a phenomenal event, and then went back to the hotel here for my earnings call. So
oh,
it's
okay.
been
So
a busy day.
you've had a busy day. Over under. How many needles did you see on the street? 10 or over under 10?
Over under 10 needles. I suspect highly over, but when I'm walking down the street in San Francisco, I tend to just try to look straight ahead and make eye like it is. It's still
So
a little dicey here at times.
it's the battle of the apocalypse. All right.
Oh
So
man.
it was a big day. I'm not much to talk about earnings, but we're friends. We kind of hung out yesterday, last week, and over
Talk some meme coins.
we talked some meme coins. You had a tea, I had a latte, and you were bitching about an analyst, which was funny. I'm like, what do you care what an analyst thinks? But like, you got to take this stuff personally. So let's pull up this shareholder report. And so I was asking before, is this written by ChatGPT or Perplexity? If you could
Yeah.
choose who to write this report.
I have 3 daughters under 10 years old, and they were able. I was working a lot with customers last quarter, so they were able to write this up in their spare time. So it worked out great.
All right. So first of all, name change. This is how we met. I was
Yeah.
screaming on Twitter to nobody. I didn't know you were listening about who the fuck changes her name from Taser. And there's no funnier word than name than Taser, right? It's from the movie when what's his name gets tased.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. The Hangover.
the Hangover. So
Yeah.
one of the great moments ever for Taser, I would think, out of the blue. Did you know that was coming when he got tased?
We did not, and that was actually the second one behind. There was like a viral YouTube video out of the University of Florida in like 2008 or 9, and then the guy was screaming, "Don't tase me, bro!" And
Right.
that one kind of put the Taser brand on the map. But then, yeah, the Hangover, not the use cases we try to promote with our products, but good brand awareness at least.
I mean, there's so many people I want to tase. Um, People should have a tase list. So the name gets changed. How did Axon come about? So what? So is it because of the body art? Like, what was the? How do you change a name 20 years into a company? So just go through
Yeah,
that.
it's a great question, and a lot of credit to our founder Rick and one of our board members Hadi Partovi, who are really pushing for this. And as you were saying at the time, there was some built-in skepticism that like, hey, is this really worth it? We've got a lot of brand equity with Taser, but essentially what happened was our video and software business, our body cameras, and all the software the police use to administer that evidence. That business just became larger than the Taser business, and we felt like Taser's a great brand for our use of force products, or less lethal products, but for our overarching company brand, knowing where the company was going into more and more SaaS, AI, wearables, it didn't really support that type of product line. So it was a hard decision. I didn't know at the time. I didn't think anyone knew how it would turn out, but it's really worked out well, and now we've got two brands that are widely known in policing and public safety, and starting to become more and more known to just day-to-day consumers.
But it was your ass on the line because you were head of marketing at the time. No.
Sales and marketing, yeah, it's
Yeah.
but look, this decision, I wish I was the author of it, but we have some really great advisors had been pushing on this for a year or two, and ultimately they were right.
All right. So let's boringly go through. Today was the earnings call. You were on the call with Rick, the founder, and your CFO. nobody feels nervous enough to have those people on this call. So I kind of enjoy that for our audience at Stocktwits. You trust us. Um, Big numbers, right? Like forgetting the headline, the estimated, if you go to Stocktwits, we have this all in the AI summary and just go through. The guys can pull this up, hopefully. But a buck 40 was the estimate. $2, 208. Usually everybody
Thank
beats
you.
by a penny, so that's a whopping beat. Um, it's very volatile, the markets right now. So the stock's been between 500 and 700 for Christ's sake, but up $60 on the news. So here's Stocktwits. So the surprise was big. The move after markets is big, so that's fun to see. We've got the whole investor presentation. And then we've got our earnings recap, which is cool. Like
That is cool.
bullish take, quarter four revenue exceeded expectation of 575 million. And the bearish concerns exist around Arizona's political and legal environment. I thought we had a good political and legal. What does that mean? Pull
Uh,
that back up, guys. Scroll that back up. But
yeah,
that's news to
so
me.
we're seeing live. Sometimes the hallucinations in AI are a little challenging. That was discussed on the call. It was in Rick's prepared remarks, and essentially what he was saying is as we were talking about last week, this headquarters situation in Scottsdale.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, it's we're actually, to the Scottsdale City Council's credit, they had approved our zoning case, but then the next day an out-of-state union from California came in and partnered with a former city council member to garner a bunch of signatures to put this on the ballot. I think 93% of the signatures came from paid petitioners, and some crazy percent of the funding was from out of state, and really crappy outcome here in terms of our future in Arizona. And so we're working with the legislature to see.
Wow. Because you've
Yeah,
been
so
here 30 plus years.
company was founded. Yeah, company was founded in Arizona. So we still want to be here. We're hopeful that we can figure it out, but this is really the last bite at the apple. And if we can't figure out how to get this addressed, I think it's increasingly likely we end up in a different state as our headquarters.
Okay, that I just am learning fresh, so I apologize for not catching that
No,
when we
all
chatted.
good.
So concerns
All
about
good.
federal funding cuts. Obviously, Palantir was down.
Yeah.
Defense stocks in Europe are up for reasons that, hey, if we're going to cut them off, they're going to go spend money, and Europe is a big focus for you. So what you may lose here is going to be amazing there. But what is with the federal? Like, I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
it's the stock's down on some kind of news that Trump tweeted or what
Yeah.
have you.
It was actually a weird week last week because you don't see a company generally hit their all-time high and then trade off 30% in the same week, but that's
Yeah.
actually what happened last week. And on the federal stuff, Howard, I actually think there's going to be more opportunity for Axon in the
Yeah.
federal space.
Mhm.
I think what's happening is there's a lot of cuts on things that the government either the federal government isn't either using or is not happy with. And with our products, we've got rabid usage and rabid fandom of our products amongst our customers, and we work really hard for that. And so I'm hopeful that some of this funding that's cut is kind of reallocated to programs for police and federal law enforcement, which I think there's a chance that does happen, and we'll be ready to help in any way we can in that moment.
Yeah, I think if they put a vote, and again, I consider myself centrist, but uh, I'll take the other side of anybody I dislike. But in a world where, like, I think if they just went up to 90% of people on the street and just did a random survey, should there be more cops on the street? And should we pay cops more? Well, I would say 90% would say yeah. And yet
Yeah.
here we are, and they're talking about cutting. So it's just
Yeah.
one of those weird things where everybody I look at my government and I'm like, okay, what do I want from the government? I'd like to not live in a guard gated community, and I would like to not have a gun. And
Yeah.
yet, so I don't know. I don't know how you work around that environment. I just think the TAM's getting bigger. Obviously, you feel the same way.
Yeah, one of the I agree with you, obviously, and largely, major city police forces right now, even relative to what they're funded to be able to staff, have vacancies in the dozens or hundreds. Generally speaking, because it's a hard time still to be a cop. Coming off the last 5 years, it's still not a profession that people are sprinting to be a part of in large numbers, and I think that's sad. These are folks that protect our communities and are great people that just want to get home safe as well. The vast majority of them are, and it's hard to see. But we're happy to be able to support them. And you mentioned the enterprise business and the TAM expansion and so forth, Howard. Like, actually, that's probably the biggest news that came out of the call today. Is in
Yeah.
Q4 we were able to close the biggest deal in company history with a non-law enforcement customer. So I
Okay,
think
so
people
walk us
think
through
of
that,
our
guys. You can just pull up the slides, guys, if it relates or not. Okay, so what? Let's walk through the enterprise stuff.
Yeah, so traditionally, Axon has been a company that served public safety, and over the last two or 3 years, we've heavily invested in our enterprise business to support retailers and logistics companies and hospitality companies, because between worker abuse and shrinkage, losing more and more merchandise, we're seeing a growing need for body cameras and just more video related functionality in a lot of these businesses. And so, great data point for us out of the gate to see, our largest deal ever coming from one of these customers. Whereas I would imagine most people would have bet it would have been a government deal.
Can you say, is it like a Walmart or Amazon, or is it
It's
you
a
can't
it's a
say?
large global logistics provider. We're unable to name them by name, but one of the biggest logistics companies in the world,
All right, is it?
and now our favorite logistics company in the world by a mile.
There's so many logistics companies. So that's the good news, is there's so many. I mean, talk about an industry that's massive. It's logistics, so it's endless.
Yeah.
So this could be one of the 50 companies. All right, so let's talk about the business. Was Taser's Taser, but is the true business today because of an acquisition, or was it? So this goes to like how great founders think. Taser was a great company. Is the business that's growing the fastest right now because of the acquisition, or is it internally made?
Yeah, our organic products are still growing the fastest.
Okay.
Generally, our approach to acquisitions is we're looking for companies closer to their beginning than their peak. Like, we would rather acquire these super talented teams that have a growing product line, but not necessarily has, it hasn't necessarily arrived in large numbers into public safety. And that's because, one of the things that we do really well is we give our users a really integrated product experience that feels like, hey, everything fits together, everything works, all the workflows are very user friendly. And when you start trying to cobble together mature acquisitions, you just lose that. Like, it feels like you're using two or three different systems. So we're always, our M&A philosophy is, we're looking for companies that are in the low hundreds of people generally, not in the thousands, and growing revenues and bookings, but generally toward the first the first part of the curve, and not before it gets too steep.
Was the body camera, that was an acquisition though, wasn't it?
Nope. We
Oh,
started. We had tasers. We had body camera, or sorry, we had cameras in our
on the
tasers
tasers.
for
Yeah,
years and years, and we were saying, hey, the results are really good. We should actually put the body camera on the officer and not just in the taser. So now it will capture all civilian contacts and all uses of force. And then that actually created the bigger opportunity, which is storing all that data, which,
correct.
and that was kind of the birth of our cloud business. And so it's kind of one thing leading to the next.
Yeah, I have this somewhere on my newsletter where I broke out like you're basically like an Oracle. Like it's like you built this little private Oracle business on top of a security slash defense company where you can land and expand, right? Your customers are just needing you more and more. As long as you keep the customer happy and do the storage, there's just more TAM per customer.
Yeah, and we heavily invest in R&D, and we're proud to do that. Like, our philosophy is, let's be super lean and stringent on SG&A so we can maximize what we do in R&D. And what we're really good at is just bringing disruptive technologies to the public safety market. So it started with wearables like the body camera and cloud. but now it's transitioned to virtual reality, drones and robotics, AI. And so we just, our customers really trust us to bring, these new disruptive technologies into the public safety space, and we try to do that really responsibly and very effectively.
So the cloud business is, so let's talk about drones and robotics and AI. Those are the three buzzwords, Well, maybe drones isn't a buzzword, but man, they're cool. So drones,
Hmm.
robotics, AI. So let's end with that. So where are those three in the hierarchy? Drones are now becoming more like a true thing.
Yeah,
They
drones are
exist.
here, I would say, at this
Yeah.
point. Agencies use them. Like, I'm looking out in San Francisco right now. You can imagine on the rooftops of these buildings, when someone calls 911, the first thing that's going to arrive at the scene is a drone. And so
Oh,
those, and that gives the officer an idea of what's going on. It gives the dispatcher an idea of what's going on, and it
did
leads
not
to
know
safe.
that.
So
Okay,
so
so
that's
they're
like here.
allowed. So the police departments are allowed to operate drones in any zone.
Yes, they have to get an FAA waiver to do
Okay.
so, but yes, and so that's kind of here. I would say on the other end of the spectrum, robotics. Yeah, you could throw a robot into like a hostage scene and help with less lethal technology or something, but long term, robotics are going to mean humanoid robots. I think in security use cases, and so that'll be 10, 15 years out into the future at least. So that's kind of the other end of the spectrum from drones, and then happening now, but going to be huge, in the coming years. Obviously, AI, like the product that we're seeing a tremendous demand for really two products that are AI, ChatGPT based products. The first is we have a product that analyzes the body cam video transcripts and writes
Right.
police reports in
Right.
draft form for the police officer, and that one
Soon to
is
be, they'll be writing Netflix movies based
fastest
on some of
growing
these.
product in terms of demand in our company's history. Like, just
Yeah.
crazy to see, and the time savings are off the charts. And then, the second one of those is a real-time translator. We both live in Arizona, obviously, multiple languages spoken in Arizona, a lot of Spanish speakers. And so the body cam will actually translate in real time one
Whoa.
of about 150 different languages back to the police officer so they can understand. They don't have to call in a translator. And again, in a lot of different use cases, that's highly valuable for our customers. So couple really interesting use cases for AI out of the gate here.
So so to me, like the reason I've stayed long in the stock and I don't generally, forgetting the multiple aside, the reason I stayed long is the cloud business. What ties it all together is the cloud, meaning they can buy a drone from somewhere else, but if they buy a drone that's Axon powered, let's call it, or are you insensitive to what drone they buy as long as you power the data in the cloud?
The partner that we work closely with is called Skydio. So
Oh,
that's
okay.
that's the
So it's not
drone.
your own. You don't have your own drone
We
product
don't
yet.
make the drone hardware. We make a lot of the
Okay.
software and real-time functionality around the drone. We make the counter drone software, but for drone hardware, Skydio is the best option in
And
the
is
market.
Skydio a public company or no?
No, they're a private company.
Okay. So there's okay. So and then in robotics, theoretically, the same thing would happen. You would work with a humanoid
I
company.
think so. I don't know that we'd ever go into building robots
Got
ourselves
it.
in any grand scale, but
Okay.
yeah, I mean, plugging those sensors into, this ecosystem that we've built is it, like, it's just a very clean, tight workflow for our customers. So it's gone well.
And so in terms of federal versus state, is most of the business considered state or is it federal? What's the breakdown?
Yes. State and local is the biggest part of our business. It's our core business. And then we've got three kind of growth verticals: our federal business, our international business, and our enterprise business. And all three of those are growing nicely. And we're very excited about what the future holds for those.
And let's talk about the main difference of running. When you started, what was the company? 2 billion maybe?
No, it was
Less
like
than 10 million?
200 million or 300 million.
Okay, so for people listening,
I mean,
just people throw this term "start out." You were like 20-year-old startup theoretically. The company was a $200 million business or market cap, public company. So it was like not covered by anybody. The ticker
yep.
was TASR
Yep.
and left for dead basically.
Yeah.
And
It
so
was
you
interesting.
200 million, you can do the math. 200 million, I think it hit 50 billion a few weeks ago, but now
It
like
did.
40-ish billion.
It did. Yeah.
Um, so what is the biggest difference between being in charge of a $200 million business and a $40 billion company? What is the biggest difference in the day-to-day drama in life?
Yeah. Look, I'd say it's probably how we spend our time, right? You've got to be a lot more selective, and the things we go after now have to be super high impact and represent a lot of value. And so the decision making criteria for what we spend our time on, we're big at Axon. We're big Art of War fans. You know, the Sun Tzu book, and highly recommend everyone read that. One of the most important things in there is if you want to win, you better spend all your time doing the things you're good at and not the things you suck at. And so for us, it's like, hey, what are we good at? What more can we do and build upon to keep winning there? And and luckily our team over time has become good at a lot of things. So we got a lot of opportunity into the future.
And what about having a founder-led company? How is that? You've been there how many years now?
I've been here 16 years, and uh I
You
can't
invest in
imagine working
startups.
anywhere.
You're an LP of ours. You've been around the block. What is the difference, do you think, between a founder-led, someone who invests
Yeah.
now on their own? What are you looking for when?
I I'm so jaded on this one, but I can't imagine working for a company that's not founder led. I mean, Rick is culturally at the center of what we do, mission orientation at the center of what we do, and he's our product visionary. And so when you've got a founder who's got such a high hit rate, like our customers refer to him as the Steve Jobs of law enforcement. I mean, he is a transformational figure in technology and public safety, and to have someone like that on your team that is charting the product vision for us, it makes running the business day to day a lot easier and a lot more fun. And so Rick and I are a package deal at Axon, and we're having a lot of fun together.
But is his brother involved? I can't remember.
He was, yeah. Tom was involved for about 20-ish years.
All right. So founder-led, $40 billion. Um, you've been there from 200 million. What do you do in your spare time? What is the president of a $40 billion company? You have three girls.
Yeah, I'm look, for those who are big work-life balance people, more power to you. That's not me. I work, and that's what I like doing. I do have a family, and I love them very much, and I spend as much time with them as I possibly can. I've got three children, and I've been married since 2011, and so we got a good family thing going on. I used to play golf a lot. I played in college. Now I maybe play once or twice a month, but man, when you're doing what you love every day, it's just, why stop? And so, yep, up at Silverleaf and up at Whisper Rock, and a lot of good golf in Arizona.
Yeah, a lot of good golf. If you could, what's the outside passion? Is it golf? Like, what's the outside passion like that? If you could devote most of your spare time to, is there
Yeah,
like a?
I'd say it would be golf. It's going to shock you to hear this, Howard, but I'm not a heralded athlete, but somehow I'm able to golf my ball around the golf course okay. And so I would love to be able to play more. I think it's such a cool game. It's really the only game you call a penalty on yourself in.
Uh-huh.
It's you're playing against other people, but what you're really doing is trying to do the best you can against the golf course. And so it's a unique game, and it's one you can play your whole life. So maybe
Have
one day
I
I'll get back into it a little more often.
have I pitched you Tays golf?
No, but it sounds like an amazing idea.
I mean, it would be a slow round because I think if you hand someone a taser, the initial reaction just to you
Oh yeah.
would be to
There's this
use.
great viral video from a guy hitting a shot like it's a par three over water, and the guy gets like hits the ball, is like holding his finish, and then one of his buddies hits him with the taser, and very very funny video. Again, not the use cases we necessarily recommend, but very
All right,
funny video.
do we have a couple questions here, just quickly? Do we have a couple good questions, or let's see? What are the KPIs Axon tracks to measure performance of its business? Like, I guess at a 40 billion, what are the key KPIs? It's a good
Yeah,
question
so
from
we call these mission and metrics. We try to make everything Axon and our customer base specific. So KPIs are mission and metrics at Axon. And those M&Ms, essentially, they're what you'd expect financially, key kind of indicators across, EBITDA and revenue growth and bookings and so forth. But we're big on measuring a lot of the leading indicators. So we meet once a month and we go through a list of about 40 key indicators across our business, often pipeline related to new products, milestones on deployments with new customers, deploying new products to them. Some metrics around recruiting. We've got to make sure we've got a really talented team. As we got plenty for them to do at Axon. So a lot of recruiting focus metrics, but yeah, all the things that essentially, we look at like, hey, if we invest our time in these things, these are the things that are going to pay off for the long term.
Okay, and then body cams at Walmart. So that's public information, I guess.
Yeah, they are being piloted. We're excited about the opportunity there. Can't say much more than that at this point, but
so what
again,
so a greeter greets you and then just puts a little chip on your back and says, "We got your back."
Well, think about this, Howard. So shrinkage in retail has gone from 1% to 3%.
In
So
San Francisco, it's 97%.
Yeah, so if it goes to a $300 billion industry and you're talking about an extra 2 percentage points, that's a lot of cake there. And so customers are starting to really look at this and say, look, we've got to document crime more effectively so that it can be prosecuted. Because sadly, right now, someone stealing isn't necessarily
not getting prosecuted
very often. And
so
that's a big part of it. Worker abuse, retail workers are getting abused and harassed at their workplace, which is never something that anyone would want. And so, there's some really interesting use cases out there protecting all these high value assets with drones. You can imagine some of these businesses with warehouses or other,
especially data centers now.
Yeah, data centers, both with drones and with drone mitigation and awareness capabilities. So if someone is flying a drone into them, you can track and mitigate. So a lot of different opportunities, in enterprise that, are directly correlated to kind of our product portfolio.
So that's a huge TAM. So I didn't think about that. So that's more non-governmental. That's just okay. Yep. So that's cool. Okay. So so I guess I don't know much about Skydio. Is that a vulnerability? Not to be difficult. Is that theoretically, if you are reliant on Skydio. So how do you manage that relationship, knowing that it's
I wouldn't say we're reliant on them, Howard. They're our partner of choice. So if you deploy a different type of drone, you could still use our software with it, and you could still get all of the or most of the functionality and feature set. But here's the reality is we believe drone as a first responder, which is that drones flying off the rooftops on 911 call, that whole dynamic. We believe that's going to be the future of policing. And so when we're out in the market, there's a few companies out there. Nobody is even close to Skydio. These drones fly autonomously. They're super high quality. Their founder, Adam Bree, is one of the most talented people I've worked with, in any capacity in my career. I think he's fantastic. And so when we look at, hey, here, the partner that we want to bet on, there's no close second. Skydio is really the leader.
Is that, I'm just pulling it up. Drones are ready for emergency response. Very cool. So someone at the police station manages that, not Skydio employees.
That's right. Skydio supplies the technology, much like we do, in other product lines, and then the agency generally will have a few drone pilots and folks who run that program there.
All right, awesome. We covered a lot. Love to do this quarterly. I mean, this is kind of what we're doing at Stocktwits. Like we're just just like you're benefiting from AI. Like Stocktwits 17 years old. It's like hearing your story and being like, I don't know, $200 million after 20 years. And you hear all these people talk. Silicon Valley has this saying, Mark Pincus said, and I know Mark is like, I'm going to build a 100-year company. And I'm like, anybody who says they're going to build a 100-year company is full of shit. Because how do you fucking know what you're going to be doing 2 years from now?
That's right.
You can only build a 100-year company after 30 years. You can't even start talking about it. Yeah. So it's like,
we're just, like our philosophy is, look, like we're big on, a lot of people are big on these long-term goals, and those are important. But the reality is long-term goals are just the sum of a lot of short-term goals. And so we're big on like, hey, what are we doing today? What are we doing tomorrow? Let's stack the wins on top of each other. And the rest becomes pretty evident over time.
If you could change one thing about being a public company, is it the quarterly stuff, or like, I mean, how much of a distraction is it?
It's Look, it's not a distraction per se, but it's more just the swings of like, the ups and downs where like, hey, we hit, like I said, we hit an all-time high last week and then we went down 30% in the same week. And it's like company hasn't changed one bit. We're just sitting on our earnings waiting to be able to announce them today. And it's like some of that, and then some of the distraction factor that comes with that you've got employees where they're highly compensated in stock. It matters a lot to them. You've got
Productivity has to drop intensely when a stock.
It's challenging, and
They're
luckily we've
human
been on
beings.
the other side of that,
They're human beings.
and
They're measuring their net worth by the hour sometimes. Yeah.
sometimes, and
Yeah.
we've been on the other side of that mostly, and we've had a great run here. But when that does happen, it's hard, and it is a distraction. So hopefully more bright days ahead here.
All right. Well, congrats on a great run.
Thank you.
Obviously, a great quarter surprised a lot of people, but like the stock price is the stock price. And well, luckily, I get to see you. We'll eventually hit a golf. I've been avoiding playing golf with you
Oh,
because
come on.
I've been avoiding playing golf, but I think we'll play down at our grass clippings course eventually.
I would love to. That would be a lot of fun, and I'll look forward to it, Howard. Thanks
All right,
for having
everybody.
me on, and thanks, and congrats for all the great stuff you're doing at Stocktwits. It's very fun to see and fun to be a part of.
Josh Isner, everybody from Axon, and have a great night. Thanks for staying with us. See you,
Thank you,
everybody.
everyone. Appreciate it.
Cheers, buddy. All right, we'll let Josh.